highlight, I'm gonna go a bit off piste here, and go for the opening to Space Quest. The opening 5 seconds where Frasier does a yawn.
Yeah.
And the noise that he makes when he yawns is so funny.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I love it.
Yeah.
And it just has... I just have this... I don't know, memory in my head of rewatching these discs as a teenager and rewatching it as Series 1 so many times. And that is one noise
It just stands out.
that stands out that I will never forget, and I love it. It's just so funny.
Yeah.
Ever heard of Lupe Velez?
I really love at the end of the first episode the Lupe Velez story that Roz tells, and the kind of the message behind it. I find it so funny. Yet again, like with the Crucible, it's one of those things that I will always associate with maybe something doesn't work out how you think it will, but it works out fine later on. I will always think, just like Lupe Velez. Last scene with her head in the toilet.
I wasn't the easiest person to live with back then, and she had plenty of reason for doing what she did.
See, I think for me the highlight is gonna have to be the conversation between Martin and Frasier at the end of Beloved Infidel. The raw emotional acting is something we've not quite seen at that level yet in the show.
Yeah.
And we rarely see it again. It's not something that comes off hugely often. But just particularly between Kelsey Grammer and John Mahoney.
Yeah.
It's so obvious that they had such a chemistry on and off screen. And that scene solidifies that for me, and I love it. I think it's so good.
It is.
It is.
The highlight for me, this is, I think quite similar to your last highlight from the previous disc, is something that it's just the way that a character says something. In Oops, when we're introduced to Father Mike, and they're discussing this rumor that they've heard about, someone might be getting let go, and Father Mike expresses that he's quite worried that it might be him, and he says,
"Thought I'm really bummed."
And it's just the way that he says it, and just, I think it's a little bit the fact that he's a priest. He's wearing the priest. He's got the little collar. He's wearing all black, and just the way he says that, contrasting with the rest of his demeanor, is very, very funny.
It's good,
and the way that he says it just sticks with me and always gets a laugh out of me. So I'm gonna give that my highlight.
We'll go with bummed.
Bummed. When Niles is at the piano, Daphne's arrived. She's all wet. She goes up to get changed. The scene cuts away and it cuts back again. Niles is playing at the piano, and Daphne walks down the stairs in this nightwear, holding a candle, and it's very, like I say, very gothic, very kind of Vincent Price. And Niles gets immediately distracted while playing the piano, and just the way he does it, kind of slamming down on the keys,
The physical comedy,
trying
of
to
David
recover.
I. Pierce.
It's very, very funny.
I agree. A little ding when he hits the keys after he fumbles. Yeah,
Yes.
it's excellent.
That's got to be the highlight for me.
I was actually going to say the same for
Yeah.
a highlight. Was that not that particular bit, but that whole section from A Midwinter Night's Dream in Niles and Maris mansion is wonderful, just between Niles and Daphne, and rain outside, the piano, the fireplace, the nightie, as Frasier says. It's great. It's just some great performances, and that reveals a little bit more of Frasier, of Niles and Daphne's relationship, and what are their intentions with each other, kind of thing, which is good. But if you want me to pick a particular moment, I'm going to pick the scene in the hotel.
Yeah.
The scene in the hotel, or the song and dance.
The song. See, I'm probably gonna have to go with the song and dance.
Okay, I'll go with the scene in the hotel.
Okay,
I'll
well there you
go
go.
with the scene in the
It will be different.
Yeah.
But yes, yeah, that is a fantastic episode and lots of great bits.
Yeah.
And after sitting and kind of ragging on Flower Child a little bit,
Yep.
and talking about, oh, I wish it had been different, and I wish it had done this, and I wish it had done that. There is a scene towards the end. I can't really remember what they're doing, but Frasier and Martin and Daphne are sitting in the apartment as usual, having their conversation, and the doorbell rings, and Frasier goes and he answers the door, and Niles is standing there with a snuggly baby carrier. I don't know what you'd call it, like strapped over him with the sack of flour in it, and it's the look on his face, and it's just the way he's standing, and
he looks so proud.
It's hilarious. It's so funny. I wouldn't be able to keep a straight face if I was standing there like that. And the fact that Niles it's like almost a look of pride and shame at the same time.
Yeah.
It's very funny.
Daphne's fashion.
Yeah.
It's gotta be.
Mm-hmm.
Daphne's tartan skirts and gorgeous dresses.
Yeah.
It's, just Jane Leeves in them, absolutely gorgeous.
She is.
Yep.
Yep.
And that's not reducing her to simply her looks.
No.
But in this disc and the next disc as well, she's just got some fantastic outfits.
Yeah.
And I just absolutely love them. I absolutely adore them.
I don't know what I would give it to. I think I might have to give it to Daphne's outfit in Seat of Power.
Oh, see, that was well, mine was for Roz in the Doghouse, but yeah.
Yeah.
Are we allowed to do that? I said Daphne's outfit last week, I'm pretty sure as well.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
Can I do it again?
If you want.
I think this is the last we see of her tartan skirts.
Maybe.
I think she starts to switch it up in the next disc. Oh, go on then. Go on. Are we both going to go for Daphne's?
No, you may as well.
Daphne's
may as well.
outfits?
I mean, I think it's pretty deserved.
I'll allow it. I love it. I love her outfits. These few episodes. Yeah, I think because she does switch it up a wee bit towards the end of this season, and then kind of continues to switch it up every other series after that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine.
So my highlight is from the club.
Yep.
And it's from the scene when they are at this mixer reception where they're kind of trying to show off to people, and they've got written their little crib sheet of the members so that they can kind of suck up to them and talk about how great their universities are, so that because everyone's always so proud of the fact that they went to Princeton or whatever. And Frasier introduces Niles as Dr. Niles Crane, the eminent psychiatrist. And Niles says,
My brother is too kind. He was already eminent when my eminence was merely imminent.
And that's got to be one of the funniest lines in the whole show. So it always cracks me up.
Also really like Kelsey Grammer's E.T. run in Daphne's room. Because it's ridiculous. But we've mentioned the physical comedy multiple times now.
I did mention earlier, in The Innkeepers, the scene with the Eels is just actually the combination of the three kind of jokes about the eels, with Niles chucking the toaster in, Niles wielding the cleaver, trying to kill them all, just splashing around in the tank, and Daphne grabbing one of them and killing it by whacking its head off the counter. Though they just
So the eels.
The
eels are your
the eels are my highlight.
Okay.
Do you have another highlight in mind?
I really, really love the sword fight in An Affair to Forget.
Yeah.
I think the whole scene is great, but I think the sword fight is just a joy to watch.
It is. It really is.
David Hyde Pierce showing off his physical his physical side, and just the whole situation is just so bizarre, and I love it. I love it to bits. I love that whole episode. The scene in She's the Boss when Niles rocks up with the starter's pistol.
Yeah, no, that is funny.
And sets it off.
Opens the door, and he just pulls it out of the little case.
It's so good. That whole scene is just, it's so funny.
Yeah. Just
everyone trying not to crack up with laughter. You can see it in everyone's faces. They're trying not to laugh.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. So yeah, that's definitely my highlight.
That's your highlight. My highlight is it's another Niles bit. It is in Leaping Lizards. About halfway through the episode, so after Frasier has been humiliated on air singing the Mikado, Niles shows up and is talking to Martin, and Martin kind of says like, "Oh, did you need to hear about what happened to Frasier?" And he says, "Oh no, I heard it on Bulldog's show." And Martin kind of says like, "Why were you listening to Bulldog's show?" And he says,
Yes, Dad, I can't sleep nights till I find out who hurled what ball through what apparatus.
Really enjoy in The Adventures of Bad Boy and Dirty Girl, when right at the beginning, I mean, I did mention the line that I think is really funny with Niles saying,
"You had sex with her, didn't you?"
Is really good. But then when they start talking about it, and Frasier says like, "Oh, it was in her office," and then he says, "What, you're saying her couch folds out?" He says, No, we used her desk."
Her desk folds out?
I think it probably has to go to just the last time I saw Maris, and just the episode as a whole, and just how well it does to establish a significant point in time where everything changes.
I think the highlight for me is probably going to be, actually, you know what my highlight is, because it's something I didn't mention. I'm going to have to give it to something that I didn't mention.
Okay.
Which is a line in A Word to the Wise Guy. So, as we talked about in the episode, the whole setup is that Frasier and Niles have to try and convince Brandy to marry Jerome in order to pay him back for this favor. And that doesn't really pan out, so then they decide, well, the best way to do it, or the only way that she's going to agree to marry him, is if they can get her a job. So we need to get her a job somewhere good, and then Niles has to hire her as a secretary, or a receptionist, or an assistant, or whatever term it is that he would use. So she answers his phone. They call. The episode basically ends with this setup that she has been hired by Niles, and Frasier calls and puts her on speakerphone, and she answers the phone and she says,
"Good morning, Niles Crane, a psychiatrist."
Part of me wants to say the final scene in Moondance, because that would be sort of a critical-minded highlight for me, because it's wonderfully shot, wonderfully acted, wonderfully written. It's just a phenomenal scene. Arguably the best of the show, I would say.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Definitely up for debate. But I also love when Niles throws the champagne glass in the fireplace and screams,
Niles, gotta have it!
Because it's just such pure...
It is.
It's such an energy.
Is in Where There's Smoke, There's Fire. And we were talking about it. So Martin has this comment when he's talking about when he used to smoke. The time he craved a cigarette most was when he had insomnia. And what he used to do was he would get up in the middle of the night, he would light a cigarette, and he would pour himself a water glass full of bourbon. Which, to me, that's a lot.
Yeah.
If you say glass of bourbon, you're thinking like a measure. He, specifically says like probably a tall glass full of bourbon, and he sits and drinks it and smokes a cigarette, and nothing puts you to sleep like a cigarette. And it's this whole joke that obviously it's the alcohol that's putting him to sleep.
Yeah.
And then when we see him later on, when he has the cigarette in the bathroom, he's clearly very drunk.
Yeah.
And he kind of stumbles out of shot as Daphne's shouting, Frasier's wrestling Bebe to the ground and trying to pull the cigarettes out of her hand, and Martin just completely slurring.
That's it! No more house guests!
Kind of stumbles back to bed. And I think that's great.
I think it's very good.
That's my highlight for the disc.
I do. Yeah, honestly, I'd give it to the same episode. Bebe's Nosferatu rise from the couch bed. I love it. I can't. There's something so smooth and just pleasing to watch about the way she does it. I can't describe it. I don't know what it is exactly, but it's so funny, but like aesthetically as well. It just looks so good the way she does it.
I do have an idea in my head.
Okay.
Actually, there's several jokes in the two Mrs. Cranes
Okay.
that I love. That I've specifically written down. There's the joke about Frasier being impotent and the kind of
The
the reaction that he has. There's two jokes about Martin apparently being an astronaut, which are really funny. Martin makes a joke about how he was the one that gave Buzz Aldrin his nickname.
Yeah, most people think it's because he flew fast. Not true. He was scared of bees.
Yep.
Very funny. And then right at the end, when everyone reveals to Clive that it's all been a big lie, we've been lying to you this whole time, Clive, as he's storming out, turns to Frasier and Niles and says,
I'll never understand how two men like you could have been spawned by that sweet, courageous old astronaut.
which is very funny. But the bit in that episode that I think is just my absolute highlight, because it's not just like one character having a funny line, but the three guys, Frasier and Niles and Martin, all at their absolute best, is when Martin shows up and they're explaining the situation they've gotten themselves into.
Yep.
And Niles says, Frasier's staying here because he's separated from Maris. And Martin says,
You couldn't stand her either, huh?
That's very amusing.
Yeah, I'm gonna give my highlight to Niles' advert.
yeah. It is good.
Because I think there's a lot there's a lot I do love. There's a lot that I could bang on about in all of these episodes, but that's the one that's in my head, and that's the one I'm going to stick with, so that I don't ramble on for too long.
It is good.
Yeah, Niles Crane, hung specialist. It's so good, man. It's so clever. It's so clever.
There's a really funny joke at the beginning of Liar Liar, and as much as this was my lowest rated on the disc, they're sitting around, they're talking about the various lies that they've told, and Daphne tells the story of when she was in school and she convinced all of her friends that she had an embryonic twin attached to her hip, and it's like, oh, everyone was completely disgusted by it, and it didn't completely ruined my social life, but for a while there it was nice having a sister. And she's clearly completely drunk.
Yeah.
But it's just Daphne being really weird as usual. And then there's just a little Niles reaches over and takes her champagne glass out of her hand and hands it over to Frasier, and they kind of just like look and kind of just nod at each other. Like, you could just take that.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's very funny.
No, that is good actually.
I think it's a little.
I'm trying to think what I'd maybe give it to Sherry.
Yeah.
I'd maybe give it to the introduction of Sherry. I think she makes quite an impact. And it's nice seeing Martin happy as well. He, the character is played very differently when Sherry's around compared to what we've seen.
Yeah.
He is very happy, he's very jokey, he's very outgoing. And I really like that. I really like how they can adapt the character to the situation and the relationship. And just Sherry's great.
Yeah.
Just a fabulous woman. Just absolutely love her.
Yeah.
Absolutely love her.
I'm going to give the highlight to. I don't know if it's necessarily what I would think of as the highlight of the disc, but definitely something that I love that I haven't mentioned is in To Kill a Talkingbird. They, when Niles is first realizing the situation when the bird has landed on his head, and Frasier hands him the phone and says, here, take the phone, and he kind of pulls the antenna out and tries to get the bird to land on the antenna.
Yeah.
He says, like, no, what are you doing? Just call someone for help.
And whom do you suggest we call? A Fez rental?
And I just love that line, the way it's delivered, the way he's just so exasperated. He kind of flings the phone down on his fainting couch in frustration, and it's a great little line.
I would like to give it to James Earl Jones.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, watching it before, I don't think I really appreciated how good his acting was in this scene, and just how heartwarming it is watching him talk about his wife and about being blind and things like that. But watching it this time round, oh man, I was tearing up watching it. It is so lovely. And someone like James Earl Jones, that is very typecast as, I feel bad saying that because I did typecast him earlier, but he is known as Darth Vader. He is known as Mufasa.
Yeah, the very powerful voice.
But he's so much more than that, and the fact that he can make such an impact on a little guest spot like that, it just goes to show what an amazing actor he is.
Yeah.
So there you go, my highlight.
I'm going to give actually to a bit in Odd Man Out. After Frasier goes out for his dinner, and as I mentioned, he gets startled when someone screams. So the woman getting proposed to screams, and he spills wine down himself. And then later on, after he's gone home, Niles comes to the door, and he opens it, and Niles has this, like, kind of makes a wine tasting joke where he looks at it and kind of sniffs his shirt and says, like, oh, a fruity aroma and a colourful bouquet or whatever. You know, I'm going to guess that's an amusing little Merlot. And he goes, oh, it's a Cabernet. And
Well, still amusing.
And I just, it's this, he's clearly cracking himself up, just kind of teasing Frasier, and sort of laughs to himself.
Dad, is that what this is about, Mom?
If we're going to go highlight not just like my favourite scene and not just like the funniest scene, I think the best scene is Frasier and Martin in the kitchen in 3 Dates and a Breakup. I think that is such an incredible display of acting from the two of them. I think just the portrayal of father and son, and I've lost count of how many times I've said that my highlight and my favourite scenes are the two of them chatting.
No, absolutely.
But it really is some of the best scenes. And yeah, I think it has to go there. I think it has to go there.